Hello, welcome to Flory Models. Here we are today on, Thursday, the 28th of April 2016. And this is just a live stream vlog, as you can see, going out, just making sure we're all okay. So I'm here, and also, if I've got this right, you should find our Steve is with me as well. So the whole point of this is we are ear plugged in to try and get rid of the echo problem that has been plaguing us over the show that we did on Tuesday night. So what we thought we'd do is a few questions, and this is totally live, literally, because we are streaming to the world at this point, and all the rest of it, instead of just down the usual one to the Flory Models live show. And I think we are streaming. We all look good there and everything else. So what we're going to do is just rattle off a few questions. I'll link this into the forum in the bits and pieces, because obviously we're not linked into the forum at the moment, and everything else like that. So, right, Steve, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah.
I can hear you through my excellent earpiece, which is hidden. If I had a black one, it'd be all right. Perhaps I should tuck it up. Hold on. Hold on. I can be very professional. You know, stick it round the back of my ear. And to be honest, this is how I did it on Saturday. Apart from I've got no slack. Okay. Yeah, I'll need a better one, or smaller ears, one or the other, but I'm hanging out. So what we've got is a few questions I thought me and Steve would rattle through, and as I say, we'll see how this plays out. So anyway, Martin, continuing on from where we were Tuesday, asks, actually I think did we do this one about clear in Switzerland, Steve? Can you remember it?
No, can't remember that one.
So, no, nor do I. Okay, I can't get clear here in Switzerland, at least not at a reasonable price. So I've got Vallejo's gloss varnishes. But having some problems with it. I've been thinning it 3:1 with thinner, which seems to be a good mix. I'm using a 0.2 needle, but can only get a nice, but can't seem to get a nice finish with it. It's also not glossy at all, more akin to satin, and it seems to be a bit sticky even to the touch after a few weeks. Any tips on this? I'm sure we did this one, can't remember. I've also the matte version, but I've not tried it yet. Maybe you can make a tutorial on gloss, satin and matte varnishes. To be honest, there is. Go in the tutorial section on the main site, and there is a section all about it. When I used to do the airbrushing courses and things like that, I used to show the guys how you can do by just using gloss to get in different finishes. So by high up, and obviously have a look at this one, which is up next week, because this is obviously high gloss finish. We basically speak about getting nice and close into it, flooding the surface. Okay, the trouble is though, when you're using a traditional gloss, okay, like the Vallejo stuff like that, it tends to be quite thin and tends to run off. This is actually 2-pack. It's the nipper stuff that Matt sent me. And to be honest, I went out yesterday and bought some, and you can buy it as a kit, and it's like 69 quid I think I paid for it delivered. It should last me 10 lifetimes in theory. But it really is very nice stuff. Because it's a 2-pack, it's going off all the time. It's like a reaction. It's like concrete. You've got, you know, there's a finite amount of time you've got to play with this stuff. So from that point of view, literally, you can just put down a really thick coat without the risk of it going to run and everything else. But you might get the risk of it running with traditional glosses. But it's all about air pressure and distance. Lower your air pressure, get closer in with it. You need it to look wet, and that way it gets time to self-level. If you're blowing it in from afar and you're just coming in, what's going to happen is you're going to get surface texture. It's drying as it goes down, and you're going to get the horrible stuff. So you're going to end up with orange peel or just a textured surface and everything else. So when we're doing it, I say like a gloss from far away distance, high massive air pressure, you can get like a flat finish with it. You move closer and back off the air pressure, it's like a satin. Get right down into it and flood it. It's a nice silky gloss finish. But if you're going for a high gloss finish, I recommend going down the lacquer route. The lacquers give you a far better high gloss finish than you ever will with a standard gloss coat, okay, and things like that. But it's something we spoke about on this particular build. It'll be up next week, go through it. But have a look at glossing. There's an entire section on glossing in the tutorials area, and have a look in that one. Steve, you're glossing. I know you probably don't do much on armour and your type of things, do you?
No, one technique I like to do is I'll mix it, say 50-50 with thinners and put it down, but then I just keep adding thinners. So by the time I put the last layer on, it's about 9% thinners. So when you look at the model, it's absolutely wet. It's so wet, and it just gives you a lovely finish. And I would recommend, like you say, that 2-pack. It's also what's good afterwards. You can get in there and sand it and polish it up, which is really good as well.
Yeah, and that, to be honest, we're going to do that with this one as well. We can use automotive products because this stuff literally is as hard as glass. And I do say about that on this particular build because when it goes down, that is it. It is in there, solid and lasts forever. You know, I don't think it's going to be particularly good if you want to do weathering on it because it's too glassy, and obviously it's filled up a lot of the panel lines and things like that because it's quite a thick material as you're using it. But if you want to go for a high gloss, you know, mirror finish, this is definitely the way to go because you could have any type of paint underneath this one and it will go on and give you a fantastic finish to it. But as Steve says, getting wetter and wetter, thinner and thinner, and then that way it's all about leveling times and it gives it time to level out and things like that. Another question, I'm thinking about getting extractor. I know the Graphic Air 300, which is what I've got behind me and Steve's got a version of, and the Aircon one, but they're too expensive at 400. Yeah, we did do this one, I'm sure we did, but then I'm recapping. The Aircon one at 240. Can you recommend the Aircon one unit? Yes, you can. This is the Aircon one. I've got two of them. You can daisy chain them together. There's a video on that as well. Just put in Aircon in the search on the Flory model site. You'll see the full video on that one. Again, it's one of those things, if you're going to use it all the time and you're well into the hobby, I highly recommend going down the Graphic Air route because it's just one of these things. It's designed, it's a nice big work area, everything seems to get funneled into it. If you're doing a little bit less, you know, you can start off with a cheaper booth and just see how you get on with it, if you're going to stick with it, and then you can move into what I think these are sort of the mid-range ones. Still got great pull, you've got the clear bit above it, so you've got a good work area for it to go into. Filters are relatively cheap. We've spoken about doing it the really cheap way of using automotive filters and replacing them with that, but they are very nice. But as we said before, the trouble with these is they vent to the rear, so you have to have them either in a corner or away for something. And now I definitely remember it because I've still got it here. Looks like Nunu's had an accident, but you can buy these. This comes as a kit. They're not very expensive. I think they're about 15 quid, I think, for these things. And you can buy them and screw them to the back of it, and then you can do it. This extends, obviously, and bends and all the rest of it, and that's designed to be jammed out of the door. Okay, so, you know, you can do something like that. No problem at all, and I use them a lot. I think when I've done some of my bigger projects, I think when we did the Star Destroyer, I used those. I had them daisy chained together and I had them here, and I think I remember if I did the Iwo Jima, I used it as well. So if I ever want to do airbrushing here, or if obviously we have people around airbrushing, I'll move those two out, daisy chain them together. You only need one power source, but you're always going to need as many outlets as you've got. That's the downside to this thing. So if you've got 3 of these, or 4 even, you can have 4 extractors pipes coming out the back, and they're all going to need to vent somewhere. So in some ways it might be better if you want bigger projects to have a bigger booth with one outlet, because it's all about shifting air at the end of the day. And as we said before, remember these are actually extraction units, so they're not going to be filtering the air, they're not going to make it smell better. You need to actually get them out of the room completely, so either hang it out the window, the door, or like I've got a hole in the wall, and I've just got one of those tumble dryer flaps on the outside to stop the weather coming in, and you can get rid of it like that. Oh, and a third question in mind. I'm just building the Bandai X-Wing, and your video, as I said, you said about distressing the decals with chipping, and then you didn't. Yeah, just get in there, an X-Acto blade, very sharp knife, and just picket it, and you can actually just take bits of it off. Once it's dried and gone on, then I would redo it again. So put another coat of set and sole over it. The other thing as well, you can sand them, so you can actually sand the decal down and take some edge out of it as well, and various things. And then obviously you can go back in and do any type of chipping technique on top, so by using sponge or a small brush, and you can distress the decal and everything else like that. Distressing decals, Steve, how'd you do yours?
Yeah, chip away at them or sand them back. But on my X-Wing, I just sprayed them. Sprayed the red on their different colours. That way you can put your own chipping on, and it looks better than the decals.
I must admit, it's the one I want to do, because you're 2 ahead of me on them all now, because you've done the motorised X-Wing, lights and sound one, and you're a lot more ahead of me on the speeder bike. So...
yeah. Well, my speeder, I don't know if you can see it, it's behind me. That's just got the base bit to do. What else have I done? I've done C-3PO, TIE Fighter. I forget the name of it now. But I've done quite a few. And I've got the new X-Wing on the go as well.
Yeah, I must admit, obviously, I know a lot of the guys in the forum have said to me about, you know, are you going to do some more? I will do, and I'll probably be doing them on the Saturday show with Steve. You know, when we get the helicopter out of the way, it's going to be more things for me. And as I say, if we ever get this live stuff right, what I intend to do is a lot of stuff which is going to be extremely raw, because I'll just sit here and do it. I'll flick around with the camera angles, as you know, and stuff like that. I don't know if Steve wants to join me doing things like that. They're very straightforward, they go together very easily, and then it's all about painting and weathering, which I love. But as I said, some of the guys asked me in the forum about Slave 1. It's down there. I'm looking at them all now, and as I say, I've got them all lined up. So I've got the new X-Wing I'd love to do, the Snow Speeder, obviously Boba Fett and all the rest of it. They're all literally just down there, sort of, you know, shouting at me. Also, as in far as sci-fi goes, I've also got quite a lot of Battlestar Galactica stuff down there. I've got the Ranger from Interstellar I'd like to do. So from the sci-fi things of it, as was pointed out to me the other day, I should start up another channel called Star Modeler or Sci-Fi Modeler or something else like that. Okay, so anyway, that was from Switzerland, and he's put up there a little bit of a picture of the base, which I probably won't try and do right now, but he's got the picture of the base up there for the Battlestar Galactica Viper. Again, if you want that gloss, just get right in on it. Have a look at the gloss videos on there, and obviously there's lots of bits and pieces on about it. Okay, Darren Snow, he says, "Hi Phil and Steve, quick question about Flory washes. Have you ever tried to pre-shape with them? I'm doing the Junkers J1. Do I know what a J1 even is? Oh yeah, I can see the box art in the background. Which has corrugated wings. So I was thinking, was it be possible by using a wash to prime over it? Being far easier than spraying black would be a nightmare on these wings. Then going over with the base colour to get the contrast between the high and low points, rather than doing the base colour with the wash effect, will be harder to achieve. The thing is, I won't try and do it. Let me just try and bring up his picture, because as I say, it's an interesting one to look at. If I can actually find us on my touchpad, which is like trying to drive one-handed. It's horrible using this touchpad. Right, ask Steve, ask Phil. If we just go in here, I will try and bring it up, because as I say, it is quite a nice picture. If I can find out where we are. Okay, I think we must be on the previous page to this one. Sorry everyone, I should have prepared all of this, but trust me, we're just amazed it's working. If it is working, I'm hoping it is. Okay, is it in here? Yes, it's going to be down here. Right, okay, come on, catch up. Okay, so there's the Viper stand. We're talking about the glossing. And then right below it, here we are. God, it's so finicky, that thing. Alright, so that's what we're talking about. It is the corrugated stuff down at the bottom. The trouble is, don't forget, the wash is clay, which means it's extremely absorbent. Yes, you could pre-shade with it, you could put the wash down first, and then obviously you could go right over the top with it, but you will notice it will deaden your paint. It will give you an incredibly flat look to it, because it will suck the life and moisture out of anything that touches it. So I probably wouldn't recommend it. The other thing as well, you're mixing paint with clay. The clay by its nature, once it gets rehydrated, moves off, so that means it's got no bite to it. So I probably wouldn't use it as a primer. If you wanted to do inside that, the easiest way I would do it, spray it black, and then I would sand it over the top. And then that way, all the shadow areas inside there will be slightly darker. Or the other way, which would be my preferred way if I was doing it, I would just spray it normal colour that you're doing. I assume that one isn't like a lozenge effect and a decal anyway. And then what I would do is, was very lightly with a polisher sand over it. So a little bit like we did on this guy. We showed it on last week's episode, where I sanded off just the tail planes, the raised detail. And because you sand the colour, it makes it slightly lighter. And it gives it that effect of ribbing poking through, something else like that. So you could do it that way. There's lots of different options, or you could literally do a giant dry brush job on it just to bring those details up once it's completed and everything else, which is something I've done on other stuff, the other junkers that I've done with corrugated and things, just to give it that effect. Or wash after it's done, so you can then just go over, not exactly with a black or a dark, but make up a custom mix so it's not that far off the colour, just to lighten it or darken it, whichever way you want to go, and do it that way. But that one's not so much of a problem. The problem you have normally, and I think Rob had it, didn't it, on one of his builds he was doing, is where the corrugator goes over the edge and goes around. So you've got to get rid of that seam at the front of it and putting it all back. And the only way I would suggest doing it is like with a needle file, just putting each lane in on the front to try and get that corrugated effect as you go through with it. Steve, how would you tackle that one?
I'd go with how you describe it. I tend to use my airbrush a lot and go over the top of any ribbing afterwards with the lightest shade of the paint. And but there's one thing you can actually mix. I don't know how well you can see on here. I know it's the wrong colour actually. It needs to be lighter.
Yeah.
You can see over. I always get this wrong. I'll use that one. There we go. Can you see how the non-slip surface looks a lot darker?
Yeah.
All I've done there is mix the grime wash into the base colour paint, and then that darkens it instantly. So if you use grime, put just a drop of grime wash into your paint, and it works a treat for darkening stuff and weathering stuff. But obviously, then you can't pour it back in your bottle.
Yeah, I must admit, I've never really demonstrated that technique because I'm paranoid about people getting over zealous with it and putting wash into your airbrush and stuff like that. It will do it and it'll go for it, but it has to be the newer type of wash. Don't try and do it with the old stuff, with the black and white labels especially. It will lock up your airbrush instantly. It's got a bigger pigment count in it, so it doesn't blend as well. The new modern Flory models washes anything with the colour label onto it with the numbering on the side. So if it's got a number on the side, so if it's got an FMW number on there, that is the new stuff. The pre-stuff to that, don't try it with that because it will gum everything up. But there is various techniques. As I said, I used it to darken down black and to change black colours. If you put a little bit of wash into it, it gives the paint more texture and stuff like that. But Steve said, I know he's been using it a while like that with that particular technique of adding wash into the paint. You stick grime in with it, isn't it?
Yeah, put grime in there, yeah. Or a bit of dark dirt. You only need a little touch. You don't need much. And it's surprising how, it just stains it. Just gives it that natural looking effect. I think that's the word you need to go for.
Okie dokie. Quick, we'll flog it as a new product.
Just watch this. Yeah.
I'm
not going to say anything.
No, don't. You'll get me in so much trouble. I get told off the other week. Okay, Rodney Cross says, "Hi Phil, I'm currently working on the Hasegawa 148 F18D and the Tamiya 132nd Phantom. I'm wondering how to mask the interior canopies. So the paint is on the inside of the framing. Any help would be appreciated." And that's Rodney's first post. Right, okay, to be honest, in 148 I never do it. I just paint the outside, black primer on first, or the colour you want to see through, because on that scale you don't really notice it. The bigger stuff, obviously it's just a case of reverse masking. So literally you just go in there, and sometimes it's easier to use a thinner tape, purely because it conforms. Because if you're bending it on the outside of something, it's easy to put tape on, but when it's the other side, it tends to wrinkle up. But if you use thinner tape, a little bit like trying to do a curve, you can do it to the inside and then spray it. We did it on the F16, if I remember rightly. We did all the internals, even though we ended up closing it up and things like that. But it's just a case of reversing it. So turn it over, mask it up, and if you want to, you can do it easier by literally perhaps just doing one area. So if you've got like a canopy, you don't have one here, but if you had a canopy and it's like a long sort of like an F18 one, you could actually just do the end bar on the inside. So just mask it off, that entire curve on the inside, spray it, okay, happy with it, unmask it, then go down the sides and do each side of them in turn, instead of trying to do it all in one. And that way you can just layer it up. So you put up down one side, then across the front, then down the side, and then at the rear and things like that. As I say, it's just one of those things. A lot of the time I don't bother, I just do it from the inside. But if it's something where it's going to be seen quite heavily, then, and as I say, on the 32nd stuff with the Phantom, I don't even know if I did it on that one. Oh yeah, with mine, I've got all photo etch and everything on the inside of mine as well. So you didn't have to worry about it because it's all in there anyway. But generally, that's how I would do it. Steve?
Exactly the same. Very rare to do it, but it's just one of those fiddly masking jobs that you've got to do. Yeah,
just be careful. I know it sounds like, but we've all broken canopies. So when you're doing it, it could be worth, getting some tack, wrapping it round the outside of it. So when you're handling it, you've got more of a grip, because if you do the old pinch thing, how many times, and it's happened to us all, you're holding it and you hear that telltale sound and that crack. and you just know that's it, it's gone. You know, or the other way is just get a little bit of tape and just you know, stick it both sides and have a tab hanging off, so when you're holding it you're not pinching the canopy for spraying and working on it. But as I say, normally I will stick a dollop of this in there, good dollop in there, don't ram it in, just put it in, warm it up first as well, it means it was more compliable, it'll bend easier, and then just gently press it in there, and then that way it's nice and solid. And then to say the same for the outside, if you're doing it on the outside, stick it around the outside just to hold it and give it some rigidity. Otherwise, as I say, it's one of those things, crack and we're all in trouble. Okay, cool, look, all the bleed newbies today, great, I love it. Okay, Jan says, hi Phil, I love your work on the 787. I'd love to get some of that blue tape you've been using to mask it. Could you tell me more about the specific information on this product? Right, oh god, this is where I have to be careful when I run off now I'm attached. I'm on a cord. Okay, so this is this stuff. I have got others. Okay, actually if I hook that around the bin, being technical, I should be alright. Okay, so what we are talking about, if I can get my camera just to switch over, is this stuff. Okay, now this is made by 3M. If you look on eBay or something like what's the other thing, Amazon and all stuff like that, okay, you can buy it. It's actually called pinstriping masking tape and stuff like that, or thin tape, but it's actually made by 3M. Okay, we can just about see it down in here. Okay, and as I say, different thicknesses. So I've got down here a really thick one, which I must admit is like, you know, must be near a centimetre. And then we've got other ones down here, various thicknesses. And you can even buy this stuff, which is this heat-proof version, which I don't know why, but I thought it looked good. And I might be able to find a use for it somewhere in the near future. Probably not. Okay, but there we go. So that's something like that. Price of it, as I say, I didn't pay very much at all. I think it's around about £3.50 a roll. And there's loads of meters on this. I hate to think what it is. It's all made in the USA as well, so from that point of view, if you're in the US, it may be even a little bit cheaper for you. But it's 3M tape. It's a PVA type, or PVC. Yeah, PVC. PVA is the glue in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one to it. But I bought this one as a sort of a set. It came as a set of 6, if I remember rightly, or was it 5? No, it must have been 5. And then I bought these in 2 colours as well. And this stuff is like, it's like brass tape. It's weird. Very funny stuff. But yeah, have a look on that. Okay. Right, John was answering my question when I said about how many builds would you like to see at a time. He said 1. To be honest, most of you have said do as many as you like, which is quite nice of you, I know, but I think most people like the difference, i.e. if we get stuck into a project and you get a little bit stalled, some of you were saying it's nice because you can push on with the other one, and obviously, you know, we get the guys who just like armour, we get the guys who just like sci-fi. By sort of mixing, matching it, you're never that far away. You're only going to be a couple of weeks before I get stuck into something else, so I will keep it as 2, apart from when we're working on the FW190. As I said, I might have the Chieftain on the go at the same time because it's compact and small and I can just move the bench over. But I certainly won't have any big projects on the go. Looking at the FW190, somebody asked me how long is it going to take to do it and all the rest of it. I don't think it's going to take mass amount of times. It's not going to be as big a project as perhaps like when we did the Typhoon, the Hawker Typhoon, the 24th Airfix one. It should be quite straightforward as long as it all goes together. If not, we'll be working on it till Telford. Okay, so Brian McCormick. Hi Phil, just wondering how you get along with the new Mr. Masking Sol R, which is Sol R, purple top one, which is this one here. Have you had a chance to paint an entire canopy and then cut away with the framing yet? Just wondering. By the way, the sales team must thank the sales team for a speedy delivery of my Flory Sanders all the way to sunny Florida. We'll be definitely ordering again from the site. Thank you. For what it's worth, I'd love to have multiple builds going on at the same time. Yeah, okay, covered that one. Right, I haven't done a full canopy with it yet, but I did have a play when I did this guy, and it is still on this one underneath all this paint, which is just reminding me it's been on there now for absolute weeks, literally weeks and weeks, hasn't it? I hope this stuff comes off, otherwise everything's going to have a green tinge to it. But I haven't used it on a full masking thing yet. My downside to it is, and it is my Achilles heel with using blades like this, because although I can snap a new bit off every time, and that's what I like about these, they are still not as good as a proper X-Acto knife and like a Swan Morton blade in there or something else like that. This is what this stuff really needs. It needs a razor sharp because it drags. Okay, so I have had a go at it on there and it worked, but as soon as you get a little corner, that's it, because you can't push it down. You know, it's not like tape and you can just nudge it down again. It's off, okay? But this stuff, the thing is I love about it is when you put it down, it's more akin to paint. It feels like paint. It doesn't feel rubbery like the other stuff, like the Neo and all the rest of it. This stuff, when it's down, feels rubbery. Sometimes you can accidentally hit it and it pulls off, something like that. This stuff won't, and that's a testament to it, because as I say, down on the Halifax here, all of the glass work around the front is all that, and I'm just hoping it's all going to come off. If not, I'll need another one and redo it. But have you tried it yet, Steve?
No, I haven't. I'll probably try it on my Tornado and also on the Dolphin that we're doing.
Yeah, that's probably a good one. I think if you like a Tornado canopy, I think that's more what it would be better for. I think trying to do it in something like a 72nd Halifax, that's a lot of little windows. And it only takes one bit not to cut properly and it's going to tear, or when you try and peel off the frame bits to expose them, it can go wrong. I'm thinking if you was to be using it on a canopy, I'd like to use it on something like an F16, where it's one giant lump and you're just going to whip around one area and then you can cut it off and all the rest of it. But I haven't tried it specifically in anger yet, if you know what I mean. But generally, I'm very impressed with it. I do like it. I prefer it over the normal masking Neo stuff, put it like that, because I've used it on there. I haven't used it anywhere else because I haven't had a chance to get to use it yet, but definitely seems a very promising product.
Yeah, well, I know when I first got it and we were testing it, the beauty is that it is more precise when you put it onto when you're masking whatever you're wanting to mask, you know, which is, to be honest, it saves a lot of time where you do have to cut it, you know, because you just get your normal paintbrush, paint it on nice and neat, and it's brilliant stuff.
Yeah, no, I must admit,
You know,
it does. It's one of those products where I think it's as you use it more, you'll probably find more things to use it with, and you're probably gaining confidence. I don't know about doing something like a camo pattern with it, because the thing is you're going to have a blade mark as you're cutting around with it. But I know somebody did say to me, could you use it for camo? You could probably do it, but you're going to have a knife button unless you're going to paint it freehand all in there. And that is the other thing with this stuff. It's actually more akin to a paint, even painting it. It doesn't do that thing like the rubber stuff of the Neo where it sort of pulls up on itself. This stuff flows extremely well. So you could technically use it as a camo and freehand paint it. It might be something to give a whirl, see what it goes like. The only thing you have to do, takes quite a while to dry, just to make sure it's totally dry before you go near it. Okay, Malcolm. Hi, Phil. Why do so many of my aircraft kits offer the option to have having wheels up and not offer a pilot? That's a good question. I'd have thought having the wheels up would interfere having a pilot. So many questions. So my question is, where would you recommend purchasing aftermarket pilots in different eras and scales? P.S. Penny says hello. Hello, Penny. Right. Okay. Oh God, who does the pilot, Steve? Remind me again. As a company.
More modern stuff. You can, PJ Productions
That's
do.
it, PJ Productions. Yeah.
Also, Quick Boost start doing pilots where they're actually sat on the seat, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which we did the MiG-21, the last MiG-21 we just did had that.
And I've done it on my Phantom. I've done it on a Phantom, and I do have others. So they're worth looking at. And I know they do Spitfires and World War II stuff.
But it is a good point. They've stopped doing pilots now, haven't they, in kits? They used to be, the generic pilot, who flies like this. Two hands out, or he's got his hands on his lap, which is always a good one.
But why don't they put a stand in there as well?
Yeah, well, that's how it used to be. Well, look, the FW190 comes with a stand, a horrible stand, but it does come with one. Yeah. It's probably the worst stand you could ever have for an aircraft, but, Yeah,
it won't cost, 50p? Put an extra £1 on a kit. Yeah. Put a stand in there, that's all it is.
Yeah, no, I must admit, I do agree. It's a shame that, as you say, it's sort of come away from it, and it seems to be now they can sell you a set of 5 stands, and it's all like, yeah, available as an optional extra and stuff like that. Okay, so next up, Paul says, "Hi Phil and Steve, I've just started my first bit of armour modelling. It's the Meng Bradley, and so far I'm very impressed. Doing the tracks has got me thinking about how I might go about the Tackham type of tracks that don't snap together. I don't know if anyone else has tried, but would it be feasible to drill the track links in the centre and thread them to each other with thin elastic? When you have enough for a complete loop, super glue the entire thing together, then the elastic will allow you to stretch the track over the road wheels, and in theory then the elastic will hold the links together and you will have realistic sag." Well, it depends how tight your elastic is, because otherwise, yeah. The trouble is though, if you're super gluing them, then that's going to make it rigid, isn't it? It needs to be something that flexes. That is the only thing. The only thing I've thought of is actually very thin tape. We got that thin tape like the PVA stuff. It's quite sticky, and actually on the inside of the track, putting in a very thin bead of it down each side and running it down the entire length of it, and then PVA glue it. So you've got the flexibility of the PVA glue, and you've got the rigidity of something plasticky and hard in between it, then putting it over it. But I don't think you'll get the sag then, or it won't look realistic. What do you reckon, my little armour god?
Yeah. Well, I don't really know much about the Tackham tracks, but if you're going to that much length where you got to start drilling holes through and feeding elastic through instead of I'd just use a piece of styrene rod, put like your own track pins, so then they would bend. You could put a little bit of glue at each end to secure it in place, and it would bend. Or I'd prefer to go down the aftermarket route. There is a lot more companies coming out now with tracks, so I think I'll go that option.
Yeah, I must admit, because obviously I'm going to be tackling that with the Chieftain, and the Chieftains aren't click either. But I have noticed there's aftermarket tracks from Tackham for the Chieftain. So I'm assuming that perhaps they are clickable or linkable or decent in any way. So I don't know how they work. I have to do a bit of work on it. But I noticed them this week come in stock at Hannants, and I thought, oh look, good, because quite frankly, that's going to be my nightmare. Is doing that lot.
They did it with a Mark IV tank as well. The tracks that come with the kit are absolutely awful. But then they brought out the aftermarket set, which just click together.
Yeah.
But why don't they put that in the kit instead?
Yeah, well there you go.
Giving you awful ones that make you buy them, so you're making spend more money.
I must admit, I was just about to say that. It's like, why don't you just put it in the kit then? I've noticed Meng have just brought out the road wheels as well for whatever it is, and it's like, well, why don't you just put the wheels in the kit in the first place? But again, I think it's all sales, it's all aftermarket, and all the rest of it.
It's just money, isn't it? It's seems to be. Let's see how much money we can get out of the modeler.
Yeah, screwing the modeler again.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Michael, he says, "Hi Phil and Steve. I have a question about my H&S airbrush, Harder and Steeback airbrush. In the last couple of weeks, I have changed the needle from a 0.2, to a 0.2 from a 0.15. The new needle cap, because the old one had split at the very tip, pushing too hard with the proper reamer. Now, when I push the trigger and pull back for paint, I get full air, and sometimes just half. Completely random. Do you think it's a problem with the air valve itself, or a seal problem? Keep up the great work, thanks." And actually, Steve, whilst we're on this subject, I had a word with the man in question, and it will be here tomorrow for all that thing we were thinking about. So if it's any good, we'll get some more. But I've got seal sets coming in, new nozzles and new thingies. If I can get this off. Oh, this will be handy. Oh, come on. New needles, new seals, and new nozzles for my airbrush. So, if I just flick this, all the H&S airbrushes are all exactly the same, okay, which is the great thing about them. So if I just drop this down. Okay, this is your air stem. And this is your little air stem system. Okay, so as you can see at the top here, you have the little trigger. What you want to do is just feel it and just see how strong that is. If it's no problem at all, you're fine. You're only getting half air, which would worry me. Now, I don't know if this is the one. If you unscrew the bottom, like here, so we've just literally removed that, you can see a little crosshead, normal flat screw. If you unscrew that, okay, this is how you can adjust the tension on your trigger. So this makes it extremely soft, because all it is, there's a spring in here. Okay, so by releasing this plate down the back, it releases the spring, so it makes this really soft. Okay, now it depends on how you like your airbrush set up, but I go about halfway, to be honest. But if you wanted to, you could screw this all the way up, and this becomes incredibly tight. And hopefully you can see in there how far the thread difference is. It does go a long way up. I don't know if that's all the way. Oh no, we go even further. There we go, that's as far as it goes, but you see that is well up in there now. But this trigger is almost impossible to push. In fact, it's only got half travel now. So what you want to do is just make sure it's all free and easy. So if you unscrew down the bottom here, okay, you'll notice it'll be loose. Also, make sure this seal at the top is nice, and to be honest, I have a drop here. What you want to do, we've got a little bit of super lube, okay, just put a little drop, you don't need gallons of it, just round the top, okay, give it a bit of a push, and that will just free up this seal and it makes it nice and poppy. Alright, and then literally you're just going to come in, and also make sure underneath here you're absolutely clean. Alright, so there's nothing down there, you should be nothing in there at all. And you can probably see that dot in there, that's the bottom of the trigger. Okay, and then this just screws in, goes up in there. Okay, and you can put the quick release on the bottom, I don't know which one you got, and that should give you then a really nice, and it should be very clicky. You don't want to push it down and you can feel it sticking. Okay, to me that's actually a little bit loose on there. Okay, but it should be nice and springy all the way through. Okay, and again, just have a look at your parts, and then if you wanted to, it's going to be, don't do this at home, kids, but just make sure you're all nice and clean. Make sure you've got no paint and debris down on the end here. Make sure down in there you are all nice and clean, and if you wanted to, you could just put a drop of super lube just down in there, and as I say, I've put far too much in there, so it'll go, but then you can just work it. Okay, and then to be honest, I'm just going to come in with a cotton bud, soak up the, because I don't want it blowing it everywhere. Okay, and then you can pop this back in, and you're just feeling it to make sure it's all nice and free and everything else like that. Okay, and then don't do this at home, kids. Okay, because if you push it in and your needle's moved, what's going to happen is you're going to go too tight. So I just undo the needle and retract it before you screw this in, because otherwise you will ruin your nozzle. Okay, pop that in. Back section goes on, and then actually that feels better to me than it did a minute ago. Okay, and it just should be nice and springy and everything else. It won't be as good until you've got air into it, and when you've got air in there, it pressurizes all the system. Okay, and if you get run on, like now, good example, we've got run on. There we go. It was just because we had this done up too tight. If you over tighten this, it pushes pressure on the seal, which makes the trigger, like now, lock. You might notice it's running on. If I just move the camera out, you can hear it. As you can hear, I'm not touching this. Okay, but if we release this, so it's sticking all the time now. There we go. Let me just adjust my bottom, because I think I've got it too slack, so we're just going to do this up just a touch. Take it out to where I usually have it, which is about halfway. A bit more. And it's all about setting up your airbrush, don't forget guys, it should be how you want it to be. Okay. Really snappy. Okay, and that's because that was too loose now on that end. But say if you have this, the air stem bit done up too tight as well, that can cause it. But you hear, nice, snappy, no problem at all. All right. So that should hopefully take care of any problems you have like that. We'll just put the lube on there. Okay. Right. Okay. Alex, he says, "Hi Phil and Steve. I'm doing Edard F86 Sabre. It will be a complete job. Isn't AK's extreme metal for new natural metal finishes? My question is, sorry, it will be a complete job. I should think he should put in AK's extreme metal. My question is, what final clear coat would you use? Satin or gloss? Or is it even matte possible, given metallizers? I do not plan to heavy weather the model afterwards. Equally, I don't want it too shiny." What do you reckon, Steve?
I'd go for a satin.
Yeah.
Definitely. It'll give it that more natural look as well.
Yeah, from my point of view, I would definitely go with a satin. You don't want to go for a gloss, otherwise you're going to end up something like this. And like my metallizer bits around here, it's just too, it's not natural. Even that, they're always actually, when you get right up to a minute, unless you go for one of these showbirds, which is like been mirrored. But if you want a normal weathered looking, you know, that era type of jet, you really want to go with a satin look. I wouldn't go flat, because otherwise you're going to lose the luster from the metallizer. As soon as you put the flat on, it'll lose the reflectivity. As soon as you lose that reflectivity, what's going to happen is that all of the gorgeousness you've got from using that, you might as well go on and use Tamiya or something, because it will look awful. So yeah, definitely with a satin, and again, very light. I wouldn't overdo it. You know, that's the secret to do with metallizers, as I found them and all the rest of it. I was going, because I had a load of lacquer, to be honest, left over from this. I was going to lacquer my MiG, and then I took a look at, to be honest, the silver work, the AK stuff on here, and it really is too silver, too shiny, if you like. It's just too glass looking. So from something like the MiG, because it's weathered, I don't want to do it to it, so that's why I didn't bother.
And I think too high a gloss metal finishes can start looking like that, as though the plastics come with a metallic coating on it, you know, like the toys do, so it can end up too toy-like. So it's striking that fine balance. So definitely satin, and put a few different shades of metal onto the paintwork.
Yeah, I was going to say, breaking it up, and then, as I say, simple wash over the top of it, you know, just works wonders. Alex came back again and said, on your question about how many builds to focus on, I think the current two for two kits is really good. Increasing the variety, which keeps more people happy, allowing for a wide selection of techniques to be discussed. Brilliant. Okay, Paul Hart. Hi Phil, what is the best way to clean the blue and white polisher? Well, I lick it and rub it on my trousers, if I'm honest. Where is it? You know, that's one of my others. I get the seconds, to be honest. That's right, he's under here. This one here is particularly nasty, as you can see, but you still, you know, can clean it up. To be honest, this is one of my older ones. It's pretty hammered now, but you can wet these. That's the thing. The difference between these, I know I keep repeating it almost every week, the difference between these and the other ones is these don't fall apart. The other ones, you get them wet, these fall apart. These don't, because it's actually a material on the top. If you peel it off, it's actually a fabric, and that's what gives you a great finish. But the white side is the one that does all the work, as we did on this one. Look, still works even on hard gloss. But really, the polisher just carries on going. The sanders are all self-cleaning, and they should just literally knock out. So when you have something like that one, and you give it a rub on the old trousers, they usually clean out no problem at all. So you can literally just go in, and they're fine. That's why I wear my combats. Everyone says, why do you wear combats? I say, because my partner gets fed up with me ruining jeans on a weekly rate. Because I forget, you put your jeans on, you got your new ones, you sit here, and you either end up with a crutch full of super glue, or paint, or I rub it on my trousers. So that's what they get to it. Okay, last one I think for today. We'll do Steve, if we do Phil Prisk. Hi Phil, I'm just about to start a MiG-21. I have a really cool Skyheart decals for the Czech aircraft in the grey splinter camo, which is a really nice one, I have to agree. The decals for the all-over upper surface. The instructions recommend not using decal softeners So I bought a very light grey from Extra Acrylics, knowing it would dry hopefully to a nice gloss finish, ready for the decals. My question is, what primer to use and what colour? I have an Ultimate Modeller's Stynol Res in grey and a Vallejo black primer, or can I get Tamiya paint in this area? Thanks, loving the live shows. Often model with the returns natter in a way in the background. Steve, how would you do it?
I would use, my preferred is Tamiya paint. I always use XF20 and 19. That way it's easier to sand down and get a lovely finish before you put your base coat on. But I'd make sure after you put your base coat on, put a couple of coats of clear over it. So you get a really nice smooth finish. Even if be prepared to give it a little go over with a polisher and then apply the decals. It's one of those that with them kind of big decal sheets and quite complicated, and there's a lot of decals going on. It's all about how you prepare the surface before you put the decals on. You know, the decal's got to be tricky enough as it is, but put all your effort into getting the base ready for the decals.
Yeah, I think in some ways, I like with this one especially, I'd polished it with a polisher a little bit too good, because the trouble I had, the decals were just slipping all over the place. So like you'd get one in position and you slightly move it and it just flips off, it just slides around all over the place. So you have to get rid of all the water and then slide it around. So that's the only trouble when it's too glossy, getting them all to go in. But so like Steve said, I think I would actually base coat it with a grey right down there. Couple of coats of like clear or just a gloss over it, just so it's nice. Polish it so it's got a nice surface to go onto, because like Steve was saying, the thing is when you're dealing with the bigger decals, if you've got something underneath like a lump or a bump or something else like that, not only could it poke through and tear, but also you're going to see it. It will stand out, because usually the decal is like a normal satin finish right over. It's going to look out of place. Okay, so just make sure your preparation is good for your paintwork and everything else, which I know I'm not one to talk after messing this one up and getting it covered in fluff, but you know, it is one of those things. It's all the preparation work, and it's just that thing, taking your time, making sure it's all good, making sure the paint's all completely dry and the gloss is dry, then come in and start decaling it and working your way through with it. And again, with big decal jobs like that, take your time. Set yourself a good amount of time to get in there. Keep it nice and wet until you're happy with it. And don't be afraid if it's not going right to take the decal off and put it back on the backing sheet. Okay, keep it wet and everything else. I tend to have it down here with it's all water on the bigger stuff. Slide it out in, and I've had problems and I've brought it back and trimmed it up and things like that before I put it in. Because otherwise, if you start moving it around too much on there, then you're going to have problems.
One further thing I can add to that. Before you start the decaling, because of this amount of decals you'll be putting on, go out and buy yourself a coffee mug warmer and plug it in. Then if you get a little bowl of water, you've got warm water in there, stick it on the little coffee warmer, and it keeps your water warm. So you've always got nice warm water, so you can just keep flooding your model with water. If the decal's not quite right, you've got warm water to get under there, and it saves you going to the kitchen every 2 minutes to warm your water up.
Which is what I did with this one. I must admit, I kept going back to the kitchen because the decals themselves, the Sky Art ones, are really nice. But the trouble is that as soon as they don't like cold water, they just don't release. Warm water, they come away almost instantly. Cold water, they will sit there for ages, and then you end up like one area gives before the other one. So you need warm water. And I'm a great believer as well. Warm water softens decals. If you do it in cold water, that's when you get the splits and the tears and things like that. If it's warm water, they're more malleable, that you can actually position them better. They've got a little bit more give in it and everything else. And as Steve pointed out, a coffee warmer is the perfect way, and I'm going to have to get one now. I'm off to eBay in a minute and try and find one, because as I say, I haven't, and I did keep going back and forward, to be honest, getting a bit out of the kettle where it's still hot in there, adding, topping up, doing the baby test, yes, that's about right, and doing all things like that to make sure you've got a nice, good surface for it to go through and everything else.
Yeah, you should be. They're only about £7 or £8. I've got one behind me, and best thing above.
Yeah,
and it were on the forum several years ago. I think it was Keith who advised getting one, and yeah, they work a treat.
Oh, right, brilliant. Okie dokie. Well, there we go. Well, we hope this has worked. Hopefully it has. I've got to come off of this now and do a vlog in a minute. Unless I just say, hello everyone, welcome to Flory Models. Here we are for the daily vlog. I'll just put this up and we'll call it an extra one. In fact, I am going to do that. I'm going to stick this up as a vlog. So, Steve joined me for today's vlog. But hopefully this has worked. We are streaming live across the net. I don't know how many viewers I can't see from here we've got. Thank you for joining us. If you like what you see, come over to the Flory Models site. We do this pretty much all the time now and everything else, especially if it starts to work and all the rest of it. If you fancy joining along with me and Steve, we're here every other Saturday morning live. We usually talk rubbish and we're trying to put the Dolphin together at the moment, which is going quite well, I must admit. So although I've got to do and detail my cockpit up and everything to catch up with Steve, but I think we're going to be, I don't know, how far we're going to get. Have we got engines and things to do? We're going to try and chuck it together. Are we going to get the glass in or not?
I don't know, next stage. I think in the next stage we've got to try and do different types of weathering on the inside, how you put different washers and stuff like that, and then hopefully we should get it all sealed up.
Yeah, no,
next show.
Good. Yeah, definitely. And then, are you around next Tuesday night?
I should be.
Because we've got the lads in, because it's our Tuesday live fun and games. Probably not much modelling as always. 3 hours of fun. So, yeah, be around for that one. So if you want to join us for that one and all the rest of it. But as I say, we hope to do a lot more of these over the next coming months and weeks as we hopefully get to grips with sound issues and camera issues and everything else like that. So until next time, thank you for watching and we'll see you again very soon. See you then, Steve.
See ya.
I've got to try and outro us. Hold on.